Hey everybody, welcome back to the Boston-Raleigh channel. Let's go watching Chinese history. We're gonna watch it. I'm in VTuber mode because my camera is like, and also just putting my head up in the corner. It seems like it'd be more annoying than having the VTube model. I don't know. I actually don't know how it'll all work out. But VTuber here. We're gonna watch Chinese history. It's gonna be, I believe, like the 1800s to modern history. This series by Epic History, which is a really good history channel. I've watched a lot of their like water sea battles, Nelson's battles, stuff like that. They got a whole playlist on Chinese history. Let's watch. Let's figure out what happened to Chinene. Let's figure out what happened to them. They made a cameo or two in my content thus far. Let's see what happened. All of creation will celebrate. All of mankind will be filled with happiness as long as the Qing rules. National anthem of the Qing China, 1910. We're gonna learn China lore, guys. The Middle Kingdom.
China, a cradle of world civilization. The land that invented printing, paper, and gunpowder.
That was a long time ago.
And under successive dynasties, the center of a vast empire that stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the Himalayas, and from the Eastern Steppe to the tropical South China Sea. The Chinese called...
I mean, I feel like it's worth noting that China, like, their borders, their modern borders are not indicative of the borders they've ever had ever. And it does seem like China just kind of occupies, like, you know, a quarter of all Asia. So it just seems like a really big country. So there's probably a lot of people there, I would think, you know. I actually know the answer to that one, but yeah.
Zhonghua, the central state or Middle Kingdom. And for more than 2,000 years, its emperors claimed a divine mandate to rule over Tianxia. All under heaven.
All under heaven.
Since 1644, this great empire has been ruled by the Qing dynasty. They are ethnic Manchu from the north, though most of their subjects are Han Chinese. By the 19th century, the empire spans 14.5 million square kilometers.
That's even bigger than it is today. That's actually actively, like, 1801. Look at all that. You got parts of Manchuria, I think, that probably go up into what's modern Russia. You got, like, part of modern, I think that's part of modern Afghanistan, maybe a little bit of the other countries over there. They've got all of Mongolia, it seems like. That's huge. That is absolutely massive. I mean, they're still massive today, but that's massive.
And receives tribute from many smaller neighbors. Around 450 million people live within these borders, 1/3 of the world's population. It is also estimated that China accounts for 1/3 of the world's wealth.
Now, see, this is circa 1751, or no, sorry, the image is the art is from 1751. 1801, China's a third of the world's wealth, third of the world's population. Right now, a third of what they consider to be modern Chinese population too, but I'm a little iffy. I don't know if they actually have like 1.3 billion people anymore. I don't know.
The imperial capital, Peking, and major hubs such as Nanking and Canton are among the greatest cities in the world.
Actually, can't remember what they're called now.
It is a multi-ethnic empire whose self-proclaimed aim is not economic or political expansion, but the maintenance of harmony. A worldview that derives from
like
Confucius, a sage of the 6th century BC. His teachings have governed society in both public and private realms for 2,000 years. Fundamental values, such as reverence for parents and ancestors, loyalty and benevolence,
There's not a whole lot of reverence for elders when it comes to the communism.
Seek to create an orderly and harmonious society. It is also one that is rigidly conservative. Young men from well-to-do families spend years studying the Confucian classics in preparation for the Imperial Civil Service exam. This is the only route to the higher levels of the Qing administration.
Nah, that's like the bar and the SATs combined.
But governed by scholarly bureaucrats and an emperor who is both revered and feared, China is failing to keep up with a rapidly changing world.
I mean, he was around for a while.
For the time being, foreign merchants are restricted to the southern port of Canton. Such splendid isolation will prove impossible to sustain.
Really? We have only one thing to learn from the barbarians, and that is strong ships and effective guns. Feng Giffen, Qing Dynasty scholar, 1861. That's... Big guns make big money. Oh no! Guys. I know a lot of you guys out there have a kink for this, but I don't think you have a kink for this. You know what I'm saying? 1839 to 1850. 1839 to 1850. I can read, I swear. 1839 to 1895, Century of Humiliation.
1839 marks the beginning of China's Century of Humiliation. For years, British merchants had been smuggling opium from India into China, a vastly lucrative trade. The consequences for China are an addiction epidemic. But when Qing officials seize and destroy large quantities of the drug in Canton, the British react with force. Using superior naval technology, the British quickly overpower the antiquated Chinese fleet.
Man, the British degenerates came in. So basically, here's what happened. What they're saying, the Chinese officials were like, we don't want this stuff making our society crumble anymore. And then the Brits come in, waddle, waddle, waddle. Let's just fuck all that up because we need them to be on drugs. We need them to be high. So that way they're like easier to trade with, I'm guessing. I don't know. That's kind of wild though. That's pretty bad. Like imagine a society just saying, you know, we want better. We don't want all the drugs. And then they're like, no. You get to keep the drugs, or else.
The Chinese are forced to sign the Treaty of Nanking, the first of what will later be called the Unequal Treaties. The treaty grants special rights to the British, opening 5 ports to British merchants.
Whoa, hold on. Fu Chao? I've heard of Shanghai, I've heard of Nanking, I've heard of Ningpo. I've never heard of Fu Chao. What is a Fu Chao? And does that have a modern name? Because Nanking is just Beijing, but back when they didn't really know how to say Beijing.
And ceding the territory of Hong Kong. A second opium war soon extends similar advantages to France and the USA.
Nice.
The Russian Empire further exploits Chinese weakness to seize territory in the northeast.
See, that looks more like modern China's border.
While a horrifying civil war, the Taiping Rebellion, devastates South and Central China for 14 years.
Yowza.
The death toll is estimated at 40 million, making...
Yo, 40 million! Imagine like something that's probably a higher death toll. I think... What is the Holocaust? 6 million? Imagine a death toll that's like, you know, almost 7 times that of the Holocaust, and nobody really talks about it. Like Taiping Rebellion, I've heard of it, but it's not something that goes. It's not something that your history teacher is probably going to give you a whole background lesson on. You know, you're not going to spend a whole month of your school in learning about the Taiping Rebellion out here. You know. You know, that's a big number. That is a very big. That's like some Genghis Khan type numbers.
In one of the bloodiest conflicts in history.
No shit.
While China suffers, her enemies grow stronger. In 1895, a newly modernized Japan
Wait, so 1895, based on what we were saying, is the end of the century of humiliation. According to what that earlier number said. Maybe it's wrong. Japan and Korea are both independent nations. Japan's probably going to fuck them up,
long seen as
right?
inferior to China, easily defeats the Qing navy and wins territorial concessions of its own.
Ayo. They took Taiwan.
Westerners mock China as the sick man of Asia. A giant fallen prey to the imperialism of foreign powers, better adapted to life in the modern world.
That's not very... That guy didn't look Chinese to me.
By the turn of the 20th century, there is a growing sense of outrage among the Chinese people.
Maybe I guess they kind of do.
And a determination to fight back.
Wow. Very old pictures. Reform and be strengthened. Guard the old and die. Kang Yue. Qing Dynasty Reformer, 1898. It's a band-aid. Last of the Qing, 1900 to 1911.
In 1899, a movement emerges in northern China, calling itself the Society of Righteous and Harmonious Fists. Its members become
like an
better
anime
known as the
organization.
Boxers.
Ah.
They are outraged
them.
by the weakness of the Qing dynasty, the spread of Christianity, and China's repeated humiliations.
Yo, but like, could you let them spread it a little?
Their goal, to expel all foreigners from China and end the shameful concessions made to them. The Boxers begin by attacking Western-funded railways, Christian missionaries, and Chinese converts.
I'm not a fan of the Boxers.
In June 1900, thousands of Boxers enter Peking and lay siege to the area in the city where foreigners live. They adopt the slogan, "Uphold the Qing, destroy foreigners." For the
that's a pretty
ruling
simple
Empress
one.
Dowager Cixi, the Boxers are
Uphold the Qing, destroy foreigners is kind of like, that's hard to misinterpret, you know? That's a pretty solid
problem,
tagline.
but also an opportunity. Cixi decides to throw the weight of the Qing state behind the Boxers and declares war on the foreign powers. It is a
really
terrible
old, potato-looking
miscalculation.
lady.
In response, a 20,000-strong Allied expeditionary force, combining troops from 8 different...
Whoa. What do we got there? What do we got there? We got Britain. We got... I think that's the Dutch. No, that's the Russians. Britain, Russians, Japanese, French, Americans, Italians. I think it's that Prussia. It might not be Prussia anymore. I think Prussia might be over by now. And is that Germany? That maybe the Dutch?
nations descends on Peking. Amidst numerous atrocities, the Boxers are crushed, and the city is looted by the Allied armies. The Qing court is forced to sign the Boxer Protocol. Under its terms, China must pay crippling indemnities over 4 decades, almost twice the government's annual revenue.
See, this is usually a bad idea. Let's just have them pay a shitload of money. That'll never go wrong. It's like twice the annual revenue, is what they said. What he just said. That's insane. That's worth $422 billion. Calculated as a share of the U.S. GDP. $422 billion. I don't know if you can see past me. $422 billion today. Article 4. That's kind of insane. Like, that's a lot of money. I know you can't put a price on lives, but that's a crippling amount of money to have to pay. $422 billion, at least for a country that's not like the United States, you know. Back, like, this is about a century after they were worth like a third of the world's like currencies and stuff, I guess. A third of the world's GDP or whatever they were saying. 100 years later, a bunch of you know, embarrassing war losses, and then on top of that, freaking $500 billion. That's crazy.
This
it's probably
is China's greatest humiliation yet.
Oh yeah.
Under huge pressure to modernize the state, Cixi and the Qing court finally undertake sweeping reforms. The archaic civil service exam is abolished, to be replaced by modern schools with a Western curriculum.
I mean, couldn't you have just kept the exam and the curriculum? Maybe that's naive of me, but like, we have standardized testing. Although Western curriculum might have been very, very different back in like the, you know,
first steps are taken to create a constitution, which will impose limits on the power of the emperor.
Okay.
The military is reorganized along Western lines, with improved officer training, equipment, and weaponry.
So China just kind of like semi-modernized along Western, just Western criteria.
Its most powerful contingent is the Beiyang army, based in northern China, under General Yuan Shikai.
Ooh.
But many believe the Qing reforms do not go far enough, and that only wholesale revolution can save China.
I feel like this is a problem that a lot of countries have, is like, the reforms didn't go far enough. Why don't we just see what happens with the reforms as they are? Why do you have to push so damn far, you know?
One such would-be revolutionary, Sun Yat-sen.
I know who that is.
From a humble Cantonese family,
I've heard of Sun Yat-sen.
Was educated outside China, in Hawaii. He is very different from China's old Confucian elite. A Christian convert, Sun speaks fluent English, but struggles with classical Chinese.
So, Sun Yat-sen, basically, it seems like, per my understanding and what they've just said, he's more of a Western influence on China than he is a Chinese influence on Western China. If that makes any sense. Like, he is a Westerner that ends up becoming Chinese again, rather than someone who just kind of saw and took notes. Like, if he's been in Hawaii this whole time, Hawaii at this point was part of the United States already. So it stands to reason he would have a different understanding of the way things should be. China's very, very hyper-conservative back in like the 1800s. They really didn't like outside influence prior to that point, but that's kind of a humongous shift. Just because Sun Yat-sen ends up becoming the leader of China, I'm pretty sure, throughout this video.
Following his involvement in several failed uprisings against the Qing, he lives in exile in Europe. In 1905, Sun travels to Japan. In Tokyo, he founds the Tongmenghui, a revolutionary alliance whose goal is to overthrow Manchu rule and replace the Qing monarchy with a democratic republic.
Yeah, that's kind of wild. I mean, they say Qing monarchy, it's more like an empire, like Qing emperor. Because if you remember, China stretches over like vast piles and piles of people, like 500 million people in China at this point, or more, probably more at this point, more than 500 million, and they go all the way out to like Afghanistan and all the way to India. Like, they're just sprawling over vast vestiges of Asia. So it's really like an emperor, not just like a standard monarch like you'd have like a European central like ethno-state monarchy where all the people, roughly speaking, are of one generic sort of background. Usually I think those seem to work a lot better than quote-unquote monarchy of a vast empire. So maybe that's the idea here. Maybe that's where he got this idea. It's like, China is too big and vast to be ruled by one man or one woman.
He advocates the three principles of nationalism, democracy, and the people's livelihood.
I mean, that's not really, like, thinking about, at this point, this is over 120 years after America has established its own constitution. that doesn't seem like a lot, you know? Nationalism, I mean, most countries bend towards that. Democracy, that just means the people having a voice. That's not really very well defined. You could have republics, representative democracy. You could have just giant referenda, but then the vote process ends up being really who controls what. People's livelihood. I mean, this isn't life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You know, it just doesn't. It's too generic. It's too vague. You could end up having like a maybe this is how you might be able to understand if those are the three principles. Those can apply in a very different number of circumstances. You can have a capitalist country or a communist country with those. That doesn't really. You know, it just doesn't really give me the idea that they knew what they were doing.
To his supporters, Sun Yat-sen represents hope in a new future. And that future seems to be drawing closer.
Right.
In 1908, after a turbulent 47-year reign, Empress Dowager Cixi dies at the age...
Imagine being named Cixi, and it's Cixi. I mean, like, I guess that's kind of the westernized spelling and understanding, but, damn. I don't know, man. This is a weird language, weird country. But this is really just
72. The imperial throne of China falls to a 2-year-old infant, Pu Yi. At a time of crisis and mounting opposition, the Qing dynasty has never been weaker.
Spoiler alert, when it comes to any of the times where succession, like royal succession, falls onto a small child, that usually doesn't go well ever. It will be my object to help 400 million countrymen and to endeavor to make the blessings of the Republic a reality, Sun Yat-sen. It's only 400 million? Hold on. How do we go from 450 million to 400 million? Over the course of 100 years, where I would have assumed, you know, it would have ballooned. Maybe they just didn't. Maybe, because this is a quote from Sun Yat-sen in 1912. Maybe he's unsure of just how many there are. Maybe there aren't as many as you think. Ooh, revolution.
The 9th of October,
that's a lot of provinces.
1911. Hankou, Hubei province. Members of a secret revolutionary society with links to the Tongmanhui are making bombs when there's an explosion.
Oh, well.
Their cover blown. The authorities arrest and later execute several of the group's leaders.
Oops.
But it only pours fuel on the fire. An uprising breaks out in the neighboring city of Wuchang. Crucially, soldiers of Hubei province's new army are persuaded to mutiny and join the revolt. After 24 hours of fierce fighting, claiming hundreds of lives, Wuchang falls to the revolutionaries.
It's kind of impressive that happened, given the fact that they were, they kind of had their cover blown accidentally. They probably weren't expecting to have to go and fight immediately then. So that's kind of an impressive victory, actually.
On the 12th of October, a new military government claims authority in the province. It publicly denounces the crimes of the Qing dynasty and calls on other provinces to join it in overthrowing the monarchy.
Uh-oh.
The revolution spreads like wildfire, mostly in cities and towns where there is deep-seated resentment against Qing rule. Within 6 weeks,
yikes,
16 of China's 26 provinces have seceded.
Now, and what's funny about this is that you just have Mongolia, basically the country of Mongolia, as one of the provinces. China's huge. China's absolutely massive. Mongolia is not necessarily a small country by population or by land size. And then you just have, the Tibetan areas. You have all these other areas, like modern-day Middle Eastern, like, Muslim areas, all the way out in the west parts of China. And then you have all these sort of, like, semi-Russian areas, all, like, up in the Siberian, Manchuria region. There's all these provinces. They got 16 of them just to fall after Hubei got taken. That's pretty impressive. And these are all, like, fairly, like, some of these are not that urban either. Like, as small as they are, looking at this map, a lot of these places are probably a lot of small towns and, like, regular people, like a Pennsylvania. Like, Pennsylvania or even, like a Minnesota being to America as this is to China. Like, not very, like, a few big cities, but probably a lot of countryside.
In many areas, such as Shanxi, the ruling Manchu are targeted and massacred.
Yeesh.
Panic grips the Qing court in Peking.
Right, that's Beijing.
General Yuan Shikai of the Beiyang army is summoned to crush the revolutionaries.
Man, that guy is an awesome name. Imagine being named Shikai. That just sounds awesome.
China is soon in a state of open civil war between Yuan's forces in the north and the rebels in the south.
That's not impressive.
In the chaos of war and revolution, both Tibet
what about the other provinces?
and Outer Mongolia declare their independence from China.
See, that's what'll happen when you start falling apart. But again, this is a large multi-ethnic, multi-religion, multinational empire. Tibet is Buddhist. Most of China is relatively Confucian. Mongolia is a steppe civilization, very different.
On the 1st of January 1912, in Nanking,
they're all very different.
The rebels proclaim the establishment of the Republic of China. Sun Yat-sen, who has just returned to China from the USA, is sworn in as its provisional president. After years of exile, fundraising and plotting, Sun has finally secured political power. His government immediately begins work on a new democratic constitution.
And see how, fast that these things happened. I mean, you have a country that's been brought to its knees several times by utter humiliation. It's in economic disarray, and the old style just doesn't work, and people got very, very tired of it very, very quickly. Imagine this in older history. This didn't used to happen back in the day. They didn't used to have just complete societal revolution literally in a decade, overnight.
Passes far-reaching reforms. Archaic practices are abolished, such as growing queues, the long hair that symbolizes submission to the Manchu, as well as foot binding and kowtowing.
Yikes. Hold on.
As well.
Foot binding, that stuff is awful. Do you see that? See, there's, as someone who's a little bit more conservative than the average person, that stuff just completely disgusts me. This is just an impossible beauty standard that they used to keep putting up with for long periods of time. All these women, man, had to do this. This is ridiculous. You can tell sometimes civilization has just gone too far in one direction when you get this garbage. It's absolutely disgusting. I can't believe, that's a beauty standard. What do you think it's like to be with someone who has feet like that? I mean, I couldn't stop but just stare. I'd just be just impossibly grief-stricken by what that looks like. It's awful.
Foot binding and kowtowing. In the new multi-ethnic Chinese Republic, all will be equal.
By comparison, at least.
Its flag will have 5 colors for 5 races under.
See, this is a very specific thing. Within China, you have, this is kind of modern China-ish, with a little bit of not quite, but you have you have Tibetans, you have these Buddhist monks. Then you have the Muslims, who are probably Islamic, primarily. They don't treat them super well anymore. Then you have the Manchurians, who are kind of just a little bit, not quite Siberian, not quite Korean, not quite Russian, not quite Chinese, sort of a in between. And then you have the Mongols, who are just a really old civilization based on steppe culture. And then you have Han, which is like the majority of what you consider, like, if you were to think of Chinese people, that's just going to be Han.
One union: Han, Manchu, Mongol, Muslim, and Tibetan. But for now, the Republic only occupies the southern half of China, and the success of the revolution remains far from certain. So, to unite China and secure the future of the Republic, Sun Yat-sen makes a shock offer to General Yuan Shikai. If he can persuade the Qing imperial family to abdicate, he can be president. Yuan accepts and informs the imperial family that only by giving up the throne can their lives and comfort be guaranteed.
Yo, that's like that's a very big balls move right there. Yeah, we're winning, so just like give up the throne so that we don't kill you and we let you live somewhere comfortably. That's kind of wild. That's just complete and total decimation by an empire.
On the 12th of February 1912, 6-year-old Emperor Puyi abdicates. Though for now, he and his court continue to live in Peking's palace complex, the Forbidden City.
Yeah, so this is a wild one. Rebellion kind of took this pretty fast, and we're actually gonna stop here. Hopefully you enjoyed this this little overview thingy. I'd like to do more of these. We've got a second half of this one video. Obviously, I will definitely be shouting out link the Epic History channel in the description. We will be doing that. You can find that in the description. Probably going to be trying to do this like once or twice a week at least. I do want to go through a lot of these because there's a lot of really cool history out there that I want to kind of just, you know, get it good, fast, hard into my brain, into my heart, my lungs, etc., my liver, my eyeballs. I don't know. I think this is fun. I like doing this. If you guys want to see more of this, definitely let me know. If you guys hate this, also let me know. Definitely be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. We'll see you guys next time. Ni hao.